You are listening to the Unsoberly Sober Show. I'm your host, Magnify Maggie. This podcast will turn your perception of going sober upside down. We're going to be working from the inside out to get you that dream life. So make sure you stick around for the end of the episode where I'm going to walk you through our weekly positive pursuit exercise to begin rewiring that beautiful mind, baby. Hello, welcome back, my free and powerful friend. Another episode of the Unsoberly Sober Show. And this one has me lit up because I've spent a lot of time talking about me, myself, and I, and my past and my stories. And today is about celebrating some beautiful souls that I have been able to impact and help in their own sobriety journey, whether that be alcohol, self-sabotage with substance abuse, and even some different types of quote unquote addictions like pornography and sex. So today we're going to be covering a lot, as always, a little bit of a trigger warning. Maybe the kiddos should not be listening as you are driving and listening to this, but let's go ahead and dive in. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time going over my history, and as inspiring as I think it can be, it can also be hard to resonate with. There are people in this world that have dealt with big T trauma, the obvious things in life, like I talk about, losing people in childhood, being exposed to addiction in the home, physical, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, things like that that are pretty blatant as traumatic events. But then there are also people that are struggling with their drinking behavior that look at their childhoods and they say, I had a roof over my head. I had food on my table. My parents were happily married. Why am I like this? Why do I have these issues? And that can be almost just as frustrating as having the big T trauma. And so I want to share 4 stories today with permission from my previous clients. I'm going to protect their identity by shifting their names, but these 4 clients have a wide variety of backgrounds, and we're going to dive into those. But what I love is that each of these people now live completely transformed lives. And they did that by working with a system that is oftentimes very illogical to the common society norms of overcoming addictive behavior. I want to start off by talking about Calvin. Calvin, of course, name changed here. Calvin came to work with me after finding an article in Shout Out LA. Shout out to that publication for featuring me. He was a high-performing LA resident. He was a bigwig. When I say high performing, I mean, when I first had a Zoom call with him, he was in a building that he was working on architecture with, procurement, logistics. He works in development and all of these fancy things in Santa Monica and LA area. He was like me in that he was very high performing professionally, but also high performing in keeping his drinking antics hidden. He opened up to me on our first call that his daily routine was to knock out 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. phone calls, very important meetings with very important people, and after that would be blackout city. Calvin was over 40 years old, very successful in everything that you could have imagined looking from the outside in, but on the inside he was screaming. He told me that he usually wakes up around 10 p.m. after passing out on his floor from too much alcohol, makes his way to his bed, and wakes up about 2 a.m. stirring with anxiety and guilt over his previous day's drinking. He had been struggling with this for decades, and he also had a childhood where his father was an alcoholic. And we worked together through actually the Mindset 12-week program, and then followed that up with the Fitness and Nutrition 12-week program. We worked so intensely that he is now able to go to a networking function full of bigwigs, shaking hands, rubbing elbows with the most important people of LA, have a prop drink, meaning a real alcoholic beverage in his hand, and not even take a sip, but use it as a way to feel like he's fitting in, like a way that he's not an outsider of the group. Calvin struggled with some really common characteristic traits of people that struggle with addiction. He was a very critical person of himself. We talked so much about his inner critic. That was a paradigm, a mental habit, a mental program that was operating at all time in Calvin's world, saying, hey, you didn't do this right. Hey, you didn't get that meeting done. You didn't get that email done. Everything of his life, even though he loved his job, his attitude towards his work was so pressure-filled. He was putting on so much self-pressure that he wasn't even enjoying it. The moment he clocked off of his work for that day, it meant walking straight to the liquor cabinet or straight to the bar to drown himself out of that stress. I think a lot of high-performing individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners, they all look at alcohol as something that helps them de-stress after that long day. And Calvin and I worked so heavily on that inner critic dialogue, his healthy habits, his healthy perspectives, that now he doesn't even want alcohol. If he has a sip of alcohol, he knows any more than that is going to diminish my good attitude for tomorrow. Any more of that, and I am not practicing what I preach as a healthy executive, as a healthy industry leader. He now has this identity that he is strong, he is self-loving, and he is compassionate with himself, so he doesn't even have the temptation to drink. That is just beautiful to me. The fact that he was never able to stop after the first sip. And now he can literally hold his prop drink, which is an exercise that we actually worked together with because he was afraid. You know, there are people that he worked with that would say, I will not sign deals with somebody who's sober. There are people in this world that unfortunately have that perspective. They will say, I will not work with somebody who's a prude and won't have drinks with me. And so he had that fear, and that really fueled his own inner critic of, you know, I have to be able to drink, to socialize with these people and make deals. But that wasn't the case. We actually practiced the prop drink exercise where he would order something that he didn't actually really enjoy, even back in his drinking days. He was a red wine guy. So we said, you know, order a white wine, have it in your hand, have your water available. And what he found was just having the drink in his hand and being able to order it in front of the person that might have said, I don't want to make a deal with somebody who's a prude and not drinking. That gave him the confidence to just say, I can be in the moment. I can be here connected to the conversation versus being in my head, abstaining from all that, wondering, is this person think I'm lame? Does this person think I'm boring? Oh my gosh, I think a drink would make this better. When you can recognize that sometimes not having the drink steals your ability to be present, and you can just have something in your hand that keeps you distracted, then that could be helpful. I'm not saying that's for everybody. Calvin was definitely a very determined individual that once he made up his mind, he said, I'm not going to have it, but it was a helpful aid to get him through those networking functions. He even started working with what we called workout snacks because he would be going from one meeting to the next and really wanting to keep his vibes high through natural dopamine, natural serotonin, natural optimism hormones. And so what we started practicing doing, especially before those networking functions with the prop drink, is a workout snack, meaning 5 to 10 minutes of something explosive with your body so that you really elicit all of those happy hormones. So you naturally feel a buzz before you go do those things, or you pick yourself up with a natural buzz after a very grueling meeting, whatever the case was day to day with Calvin. We would work on these little workout snacks, and it's been, I think, a year since we stopped working together, and he'll still message me and show me, hey, just got done with my workout snack. Hey, went out and used the prop drink strategy this evening, and it worked out so amazing. I can't wait to wake up and get my workout in tomorrow morning. And his life has just transformed. That inner critic that gave him so much heck for doing everything wrong. He could do 99 things right, but his mind would dwell on the one thing that he did, quote unquote, wrong that day. We worked through that so that he can find lessons in the thing that he did wrong. He could find experience through that and make it better the next day. So he wasn't dwelling on it. He wasn't having to revisit that storyline every single day. I love Calvin. Shout out. I think if you listen to this, you know who you are. You know how I changed your name. All right, next up, I am not changing this name because Nate has given me permission. He said, I will wave the Magnify flag. I will be the Magnify poster boy, because his transformation was absolutely so powerful and a little bit different than my normal client base. Nate came to me after years, he was 40 something, years and years of methamphetamine addiction. He was also a sex addict, and he had, about a week before we started working together, he had literally shot a hole through his hand on accident while he was under the influence of meth. He had a hole in his hand. He was a 40-something-year-old man, father of two, moving back in with his own parents because the way his life had panned out. His parents had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for Nate to go to different wilderness therapy retreats and AA-driven facilities, inpatient facility, outpatient facilities. They had spent so much money on these traditional protocols, and here he was still repeating the self-sabotage, now to the point that he is physically injured and altered for the rest of his life because of an accident while he was under the influence. With all of that being said, Nick had found my my podcast. I was on Beyond Addicted podcast, and he heard me talking about health and wellness and nutrition. And he was like, finally, something that focuses not on alcohol, but on healthy habits that are going to make me feel good and improve my discipline and improve my mindset. And he was right on the money. But what was fascinating was that once Nate started, he was like, actually, this is so much more than a nutrition plan or working out. This is so fascinating to learn about my ability to create my inner reality myself. And if you're just listening, I'm pointing to my head, my temple, creating my inner reality that then shifts my entire outward reality, my outward environment. When you start to think differently about your past, yourself, your future, then you can be in the same exact physical place, but alter your experience, your reality permanently. And that's what happened with Nate. We worked on his confidence. We worked on his negotiation skills, his communication skills, his interpersonal relationship skills. Now, we had to really customize his fitness plan because homeboy was not getting down and doing push-ups with a gunshot through his hand. So what did we do instead? We worked on lower body exercises, running stairs, going for walks. But in all of this, it was, why are you going for a walk? Oh, because I told myself I will. And if I follow through, that means I learn that I am disciplined. If I tell myself I'm going to do those body weight air squats that Maggie has assigned for me today, and I actually do those, wow, I can do what I say I'm going to do. I can follow through. And I have confidence now because I'm not just brushing all of my intentions under the rug and avoiding them. And that's really what had happened in Nate's life. And so through these different mental activities, paradigm shifting exercises that I work through with my clients, he was able to completely alter his own self-image to see a bright, positive future. And I've shared this before, but one of my, I would say, toxic traits that I thought was toxic back in the day was that I was only able to, I really hung out with a lot of, I would say, low types. I wasn't able to distinguish this is a good person or this is a bad person. So everybody told me, right? They'd say, oh, you hang out with the lowly bunch. But the thing was, is that I saw the best in them, right? We talked about this a few episodes ago. I have this gift of being able to see the best in somebody and kind of forget the worst and let the worst dissipate. So me working with Nate was me literally calling out all of the amazing traits that I saw coming forward. He couldn't recognize them, but I could see his courage. I could see his confidence. I could see his pure heart, his heart on his sleeve emotion style where he cared for other people, his empathy, his compassion. I could see those things and draw them out of him to the point that he started to see them in himself. And the beautiful part about this, I mentioned last episode that what happens is a lot of people, shelve their substance. They stop engaging with their coping mechanism. They kind of look up and they're like, gosh, my life, I don't like my job. I don't like where I'm at. So what Nate and I actually did together was really focus heavily on his career development, basically his purpose-driven goals as far as why is he on this earth? Who is he going to help? How is he going to show up for them every day? And this is what's beautiful. Nate started with me, basically negative bank account. Love you, Nate. Hope you don't mind I call this out. His parents actually paid for his program because he was in that place in his life. I believe it was about week 4 that I got a text from Nate saying that he had negotiated his starting salary at his new job for $30,000 more than what they had listed, which meant that he was making over $100,000 starting his new job. Literally going from zero or negative to earning 6 figures in a job that he loved, that really cued and recruited all of his gifts and his talents to be able to see him creating that life. And it's not about the money, but it is about comfort and his own self-image to be able to provide for his sons, and the new identity of I'm a professional and I've got my shit together. Nate messaged me, I think it was about a month ago, with an update that he's in love, he's going to church, he is engaged with his family. He brings his sons to school. He goes to the school events. He's sometimes the only dad that shows up to his son's games. And for me, that is why I do what I do. And with Nate, it had nothing to do with alcohol, but like almost every single coping mechanism, it had to do with a lack of confidence, a lack of self-trust, a lack of discipline, and bringing the past into every moment. And so with working with Nate, I was able to help him release the past and see everything as a gift. I remember his feedback form at the end of the 12 weeks together. He said, I used to look at life as what was happening to me like a storm. And now I see I am the storm. I am the lightning. And I was just like, mic drop, Nate. So shout out to him. I love your updates, Nate, and I can't wait to hear more. I think I accidentally called you Nick at some point during this share because I was going back and forth before we started recording. I was like, should I hide his name and say Nick? So Nate, love you lots. Sending you all the positive vibes. Thanks for being the Magnify poster boy. You are an awesome poster boy. Next up, I want to share about a client that is actually a member of the group coaching program that I am a part of. I'm a co-founder for The Sober Experiment. And my co-founder, Annie Graft, and I started this group experience about a year ago. And it is another 12-week program. We both, I started seeing that 90 days really was a valuable time span for somebody to spend without alcohol in order to create a good life, to, regulate their hormones. Anyway, so I say all that to say the Sober Experiment is also a 12-week program. And we recently had a member who started in the very first round back in April of 2023. This member, I'm going to call her Brooklyn. Brooklyn was our very first member that we signed to our very first round. We started our call with her and she was emotional. We were just getting to know her, and she shared so much of her experiences. She had just recently been trying to go to AA. She had gone to therapy where she told her therapist that she struggled with addiction. She struggled with her drinking, and her therapist basically threw her hands up in the air and said, you need to go to an AA meeting. And that left Brooklyn feeling very lost and very hopeless, because in that AA meeting, she didn't feel comfortable. She didn't feel like, looking around at the room, like these are people that, I have anything in common with. And so she signed on with the Sober Experiment. And we recently got a text message from Brooklyn, who has decided to stay with the Sober Experiment round over round. We have a mentor program where if you've gone through as a member, you want to stay in the next group, you can come in through as a mentor. She's been a mentor now for every round since, and she continues to grow, and she continues to give us all of these pieces of feedback of her life absolutely transforming. And just so you know, Brooklyn is just out of college. She's very young. She very much had that identity of party girl Brooklyn. And that was really what we were working on, getting rid of that identity of party girl Brooklyn, but having compassion for that identity while also simultaneously getting excited about and building the new identity. And now Brooklyn is basically a member of Chamber of Commerce in her community. She is the, I believe, top manager, if not owner, at the sporting events or kind of amusement events facility that she works at. She just started another kind of business venture. And so all of these beautiful things have been happening in the past 12 months for her, where just April of last year, she was at her own rock bottom. She was very upset, very distraught at the fact that she didn't think she had anything worthwhile to bring to the world, purpose or fulfillment or enrichment. And now she's leading some of our community nights. She's helping us, with membership intake. She is just this shining light of transformation. And I guess I say this to also, let you know that if one-on-one work is not something that you're interested in, there's also these other community options that still have so much value. But the text message that we just got from Brooklyn the other day was really special in that she said, about 1 year ago, I was at my rock bottom, and lo and behold, God sent me the Sober Experiment. And here I am showing up in my best life and my best self. And I just think that this is the type of sobriety story, alcohol freedom story, that needs to be shared, because she didn't get there from going to a room and sitting around talking about alcohol. She got there by letting go of that past identity and working on confidence building exercises, learning compassion for self, understanding personal promises and discipline, understanding your connection to intuition and your gut feelings. So all of these are topics and pillars within the Sober Experiment that Brooklyn is just reaping the benefits from. I always say, they will know you by the fruits of your labor. And so to see the results that Brooklyn is getting in her life, hearts and sparkles, shout out, girl. I'm so excited for you, and thank you for sharing. The last story that I want to share today, again, I had so many, it was hard to choose. And if I did not share your story and you're listening as a previous member, know that you are still on my heart. This story is about Diane, whose name is also changed, but I think she knows who it is. Diane is a member of my Magnify course and community. So to kind of lay that out, the Sober Experiment is a big group coaching experience with a program structured out over 12 weeks, whereas Magnify is a month-to-month subscription membership. And Diane came to the Magnify course and community after hearing me talk on a podcast. And she was also drawn to Magnify because of the focus on health and wellness and the holistic approach, not just about not drinking, but about living and about being healthy and disciplined. So Diane started working with us, and she is in her 40s. She's a nurse. She's a mama. She's very active, but alcohol always took the front. Alcohol always took the spotlight, the front burner for her. And she desperately wanted to become the take it or leave it type person, which I think a lot of people who struggle with alcohol do in fact want to become. They don't necessarily want to be completely sober because they don't want to have to identify as that. They almost feel like being sober is still giving power to alcohol through fear. So what Diane wanted was really my ultimate goal for myself as well, was to make alcohol irrelevant, to just see it as like neutral. It's not something that I romanticize, but it's also not something that I have to manipulate my life to avoid. And through working together, she would show up so consistently to the Monday mindset trainings, and she finished the course modules. There are 6 course modules. Each course module has 5 different mindset video lessons, education-backed, evidence-based. She finished the modules in, I think, like a month or 2, and she kept revisiting them, repeating them. And to see where she is now, I remember getting a message, actually, probably her most recent big win that she shared with me. She's had so many, but one of her recent big wins that stands out in my mind was about New Year's Eve. And she was never able to go through a New Year's Eve event and wake up on New Year's Day bright, shiny, bushy-tailed. That wasn't a thing for her. And I got a message, I believe it was like the 3rd or 4th of January of this year, and she said, "You will never guess how my New Year's Eve went." She said, "I paced myself and I had 2 glasses of champagne throughout the entire night. I drank my water, I had my protein, and I didn't feel sad cutting myself off. I felt excited because I had planned a sunrise ski down the mountain," because she lives in Northeast America. So she got some mountains up there. Don't want to give away her exact location, but she's got some mountains around her. So she had planned an early morning healthy sunrise ski. And I think that's such a positive kind of life structure that we really talk about a lot, is like, what are you going to implement in your life that then is more exciting and draws your attention away from the alcohol so that you're actually excited about something. So she followed suit and she scheduled a sunrise ski down a mountain the next morning. And she said she woke up feeling fresh. She got up there and just watching the sunrise on the first day of the year, knowing that she was able to be the take it or leave it type person the night before, was everything that she needed in her life. She messages me, I would say weekly, saying, and I love her so much, just giving thanks for the way her life has changed. She's even now looking into entrepreneurship opportunities. She is one of those people that, I've mentioned, kind of shelved alcohol and looked up and said, I see that my work life is not as fulfilling as I thought. I think my drinking might have been a side effect of not enjoying my day-to-day work and purpose. So she's actually looking into launching a brick and mortar health facility where it's focused on functional medicine, things like cryotherapy, sauna, cold plunging, hormone therapy. So all of these really healthy things that align with her gifts and her talents and her zone of genius, but light her up in a way that is so different from her clocking in and clocking out of the hospital type job. So Diane, I am celebrating you. I love you. Thank you so much for being a part of Magnify course and community. And to anybody listening that felt resonance as I spoke about these experiences that I've been able to witness and support, I want to challenge you with the exercise this week to not necessarily invest any of your money with Magnify or the Sober Experiment. By all means, I would love to meet you, love to work with you. But in fact, just redirect your spending, what you would spend on alcohol or whatever your self-sabotaging activity is. Redirect your spending, use those funds to invest in something future-oriented. Because what I have heard from these members, these previous clients, I know for myself, and I've heard from money mindset, prosperity literature that is timeless, is that when you invest in yourself, you change the way you show up. When you invest in yourself, you have skin in the game, and it makes it that much more motivating to actually figure out how to make it work, right? So I think that's one of the pitfalls of AA. It's no accountability, no financial accountability. You can come and go as you please. Nobody's going to, unless you're on parole or probation, nobody's going to be taking account for whether or not you're there. In your free time, you're not saying to yourself, oh, because I invested, I should really do what we talked about in that meeting. There's none of that. But what happens when you have financial accountability is, oh, I paid, so now I'm going to play. I'm actually going to be receptive to this information, and I'm going to be motivated to get my money's worth. Of course, like I said, I would love for that investment to be working with me or working with some capacity of recovery, of sobriety, but some other things to just start testing this theory. Invest in a new workout set. Maybe 3 new outfits, depending on how much you would spend a week. I know it gets really sad when I start to count it. I was spending like $500 a week minimum. Yeah. But maybe you say, okay, I usually spend $100 when I go out. Okay. This week, I am not going to spend that on alcohol. So now when Friday comes, I don't have any money to spend because I'm taking that $100 and I'm going to Ross or TJ Maxx and I'm buying a bunch of workout clothes. And maybe a yoga mat and one of those little water bottles and a jump rope. TJ Maxx and Ross have those things on sale for like $7 to $10 a piece. Literally go invest that in yourself. You are worth it. When you buy those things for yourself, you start to shift your identity. I am somebody who buys workout clothes that are cute and wears them. And maybe now I'm going to wear them for a walk and do some stretching and maybe do some floor exercises at 8:00 p.m. when I would normally be drinking and having those temptation thoughts. Maybe it's investing in something for work. Maybe you need to take a course or a class in order to receive a promotion. Do that. Spend that money on you. I know this is something that's really painful for me to go back and recall, but I remember so many times that my mom struggled financially. Literally, we didn't have food. I had to wear hand-me-downs. I was wearing the same clothes to school like throughout the week because I didn't have enough clothes. But she had money to go to the liquor store every day, So I remember being at Walmart and having to buy groceries and putting things back because she didn't have money for those things. So I really look back and I see all these times where I myself used money that needed to go somewhere else for alcohol, and it was almost painless. It was just like, oh, well, I know I'm going to get my familiar hell. I know what I'm getting with this purchase. Whereas spending that on something that's going to give you longevity and happiness, a workout outfit, a gym membership, a new course, a class, a program, a meal plan, a set of cooked meals from a meal prep company, whatever that looks like. When you start to invest in that, I know it's scary because you've never done that before. Maybe you've done it in the past and you've just left those things on the counter or left them in your drawers. You never use them, but this is going to be different. You're going to have that right attitude. I know it can be scary, but when you start to invest over in that other bucket and you start to see these tangible rewards day after day, week after week, it starts to sound really crazy to spend your money on alcohol. And you start to say, oh my gosh, well, I can invest in things that bring me return. And maybe that's not financial return, but a return in an increased quality of life, a return in self-satisfaction, a return in not wasting an entire day in hangover shame or anxiety. I receive a return of time, of energy, of happy hormones, the absence of anxiety, depressive hormones, whatever that looks like. I guarantee you experiment with that this week. So put a number to it. How much do you typically spend on alcohol per week? And what will you direct that spending to instead that is going to give you a long-term reward, a long-term quality of life increase? As always, if you're drawing blanks here, please leave a comment, DM me, email me. Whatever the case, I want to chat and I want to help with you. If you've listened to these 4 stories that really are just skimming the surface of the transformations that I've been able to witness and guide and support, if they resonate with you and you're like, okay, I would like to talk about redirecting my spending to a Magnify course or the Sober Experiment. We've got another round starting very soon. We're taking deposits, or even the high level one-on-one, like literal hand holding program like I did with Nate and Calvin. Please reach out. I've got my application linked. If you're watching this on YouTube, check out the comments, check out the podcast description. It is all there for you because I want to help you get the best return on your investment that you could ever imagine. And until next time, it's been a pleasure. I'm sending you love. I'm sending love to my 4 beautiful souls that I got to share your story with today. I love you guys and I love all my listeners. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, until next time, it is up to you. You can do it. Think different in order to drink different, or never again. It all goes down in the mind. Signing out, Magnify Maggie. See you soon. It means the entire world to me that you have been here with me, letting me share my experiences and hopefully helping open your eyes to a bright, beautiful life ahead of you as well. So if you are loving this show, please, please, please subscribe, like, comment, and especially share this with somebody that might be in need. Please help get the word out. Word of mouth is so important, and I know that you're somebody special who can help me in this mission for thinking differently in order to drink differently or never again. Make sure you reach out if you have any questions you want discussed on the podcast. I'm here for it, so I'll talk to you soon. Signing out, Magnify Maggie.